A lot of popular business advice that you get, well, it sucks. Sure, it sounds good on paper, and if you think about it logically, it also makes sense. But when you go to apply it, it can get so confusing, and some of them might even derail you. Well, in this video, I'm going to decode some of the classic business advice that I have heard over and over and over again, and most of them don't even hold true. And I'll tell you why. So let's straight jump into the first one, and I personally have a huge problem with it. It is that passive income is the ultimate goal, and you hear it all the time on YouTube videos, read it on blogs, and these business coaches preach about how you shouldn't be trading time with money, or your main aim in life is to be making money while you're sleeping. See, I completely understand that. Even I felt about it so strongly at the start that if you just set up systems, Airbnb or a digital product or even a YouTube channel, then boom, you'll be financially free. But the thing about passive income is what I later on came to realize is that passive income is not really passive, especially in the start. Let me talk in the context of Airbnbs, which a lot of people approach only with the aim of making it a passive income source. So I get a lot of comments, I get a lot of DMs where people are like, oh my god, your life is so amazing. You're running an Airbnb, you don't even need to work so much, and you're still making money. And to be very honest, social media did kind of paint this picture where these people started commenting that, oh my god, I just worked 4 hours and I made so much money. But the reality is totally different. You have guests messaging you in the middle of the night. You have cleaners canceling at the last moment. You have electricity issues. It is active work every single day. Sure, there are parts that can be automated eventually, but at the start, when you are setting things up, and that's what I tell even all my clients who are interested in getting into this space, that you have to put in the grind work. You have to be there on ground to see what problems people are facing, to address all these problems. And similarly, is for digital products. Audience opinion is that this creator is selling a course, so he's not really working so much and he's also making money. It's not really that simple. You have to still invest time to engage with the people who have bought your course or your product. You have to invest time in marketing and finding people and convincing them why your product is worth investing in, why they should trust you. A lot of time is spent in updating content, refining your skills, refining your knowledge to ensure that value addition is being provided. It's not like a magic wand that you upload something on the internet and people themselves find it. You have to go out and find people to find you. What a lot of these gurus that sell passive income solution, what they don't tell you about passive income is to actually make it work, you need to have a pre-required set of knowledge or skills. You need to have subject knowledge. A community needs to be managed. There is admin work. So realistically, beginners or other people also in the start, they need to build some sort of expertise by offering one-on-one services or doing freelancing or getting a job. It's not that you're trading time with money. You're trading time with learning new skills. You're trading time with leveling up to build a forte. When you do one-on-one service, that's instant market research. You understand what demands people have. You understand their pain points. You understand what gap is there in the market where you can provide value. And if your service is super good and you want to expand, which you can do, of course, then you can also package your entire learnings in a product and then make it as a passive income source. That is kind of like the digital product that we were talking about earlier. So yes, passive income is definitely a great way to get more time in hand, but you need to have a foundation first. You need to do the grind work first to actually make your income passive. If someone tells you otherwise, don't fall for it. Do this instead. Invest time in your business and try to get first-hand knowledge of the pain points of your customer. Here's a real life example. So when I first started Airbnb, I spent a lot of late nights trying to understand and run my business. Guests used to call me in the middle of the night, and they still do. I was coordinating with cleaners all the time, replacing bed sheets, paying bills. It was active work. And to be very honest, that's where the real learning happened. Because every guest complaint taught me where I need to improve. Every conversation that I had gave me insight that what people need from a stay. That was my market research. Later, I could use all that knowledge to package things differently, streamline processes, and eventually also automate things. But if I had not invested that active time at the start, I wouldn't even be aware of what problems even needed solving. And after going through that entire experience, now I can also share my knowledge to other people who are interested in the same space. Okay, second one, the pressure to find your niche early. Well, there are a lot of different opinions online about how you should find your niche early to attract the right audience, and I'll tell you why it is counterintuitive. Most of the time, what happens with niching is that you find your niche only by trying a bunch of things and then later connecting the dots. Like you get data by trying things out, by trying this out or by trying that out, seeing that whether you like this or oh, I don't like that, or oh, that sounds interesting, maybe I can build on that, or I don't really like that, I wouldn't ever put my time or energy into it. How can we expect beginners to magically know their niche before they have even begun to try anything? It doesn't come to you sitting in your living room with just a pen or paper or just your laptop. You get to know what your niche is by trying different things out, messing up, realizing what you really like doing, and what people get value from you. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not against niching. Yes, you should still strive to build credibility in a space, and forever exploring will not really allow you to do that. But what I am trying to say is that making having a niche a prerequisite to even start anything is kind of like a time, energy, and money waste, in my opinion. Instead, what you should do is try a bunch of things and then look for patterns to see what you are good at, what you enjoy doing, and what you can do sustainably for a long, long time. Now, when I was graduating law school, I thought, is law my niche? Spoiler, no, it really wasn't. Then I jumped into social media, did some influencer management, then started my business, then came Airbnb, and with it, its marketing and content, which also included finance. And now I'm exploring more. And if you look at my path, well, it's all over the place. But that is exactly how I figured out what is working for me, what I really enjoy doing. And now, when I look back, I see that it was all connecting. I did not receive a map that, oh, here's your map, this is your path, this is what you should follow, and you will find what you're looking for. So don't freeze because you don't know what your forever niche is. Take the first step. Your niche will reveal itself to you in time. Next one, and this is kind of sneaky and maybe built around maybe your favorite quote, that do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, or follow your passion. Well, this is a bit narrowed down, and yes, following your passion can be a good indicator of what business to start. But the truth of the matter is, and I think this is the first principle that we have to accept in business, is that what the market wants, what it demands, and what is the supply is more often more important than what you are passionate about. And this is only in context in business, of course. If you say that I want to do what I love, then please do that. But from business point of view, validation is extremely important. You have to validate your ideas, your product or service before you spend tons and tons of time, money, and energy building a humongous business which is not even working properly as how you would have expected it to. Also, one more point, that following your passion does not really absolve you of all the work that you need to put in. I love what I do. I love creating content and running business, and I still work a lot. And some parts I don't really enjoy at all. Like auditing videos at 1 a.m., not really fun. Or solving Airbnb plumbing issues, not really my definition of passion. Now, obviously, you shouldn't hate what you do. I'm not telling you to ignore your passion or interest. That is not the lore. Instead, passion can actually be a huge driver to get the most out of your work. But my point is that you cannot solely make decisions about running a business on the fact of what you enjoy, what you like doing. You have to build in-demand skills and solve real problems of people first. The ideal situation is to find what the market wants, see what you are passionate about, and then find an overlap. You need to find real world problems and solutions people are willing to pay for and build businesses around that. That is the sweet spot in this Venn diagram. Plus, also, I feel that passion doesn't necessarily need to come first. Sometimes it comes later when you have put in enough work and have actually gotten good at something. Think about it. Anything that you're good at today, weren't you really bad at it or even hesitant when you started? And only after improving, you started enjoying it. That is actually happening with me when I'm learning how to do these handstands. And this, I got a much better and clearer understanding after reading Cal Newport's book, So Good They Can't Ignore You, where he says that passion comes after you put in the hard work to become excellent at something valuable, not before. And I think a lot of beginners, they miss out on this aspect and they think that they need to be really passionate about something to want to start it, to want to do it, and they miss out on the hard working part of the whole equation. That if you actually put in the hard work, if you do something for long enough, if you do something with improvement along the way, then you would start enjoying it. And that is exactly what happens in business also. Passion tends to follow mastery and skill. So instead of obsessing over what's my passion, try to ask yourself, what skills can I build to solve people's problems? Because once you start getting results, when people start paying for things that you have created, that's when passion automatically kicks in. Okay, next one. And oh my god, this one is really annoying. This advice is that winners outwork everyone. And you might have heard different formats it being passed around everywhere. You know, like that kind of hustle and grind, or you need to make every second count, or loser snoozers, or you know, like that kind of a shamey, broy kind of language. And honestly, it's not true at all. Because A, working long hours doesn't mean that you're working on the right or the most strategic thing. Outworking everyone else should not be the goal. And B, business is a long game and you need to stay in the game for a long time. But if you keep on stretching yourself, then you'll end up getting burned out and falling out of the game. I have done it. I've done late nights, late weekends, no boundaries. And guess what it got me? Burnout, health problems, relationship problems, because you are sleep deprived. But ironically, not success. And most importantly, what's the point of building and having your own business if you have no free time, no joy, no peace, no hobbies, and you have destroyed all your relationships in the process? And I'll be very frank, in my opinion, the biggest advantage of having your own thing or doing your own thing is not seeking permission from someone else when there are certain priorities which call for your immediate attention. This can be medical issues, this can be your relationship problems, or this can be anything, but you don't really need to seek permission from someone else, be at their mercy whether they will give you off or not. That is exactly why I want to be in this be my own boss era. And again, running a business is not about how many hours you have put in or how many calls do you take on daily, or that you literally need to breathe your business day in and night time. Sure, some seasons are definitely more busy and you will be a bit more occupied, but the goal shouldn't be that you need to outwork everyone else and you need to be at your peak productivity all the time. And I have seen this happen with a lot of business owners. They hustle and grind and make work their only priority in life, that almost everything which doesn't advance their business is sacrificed. And ironically, in the long run, even their business suffers. Instead, what I feel is that you need to find your one thing that is the most high leverage thing where you can add the most value from. I read about this concept in this book called The One Thing. The whole point is you need to stop trying to juggle 100 different things and just ask yourself, what's the one thing that if I did it really well would make everything easier? It sounds so obvious, but when you actually think about it, you realize that half of the things that you were stressing about don't even matter that much. So I would definitely suggest you to give that book a read, and maybe I can cover it in a video. What say? But the thing is that it's not about not working hard or being laid back or not achieving your goals. Like I said before, just don't force yourself to operate at peak productivity all the time, whatever that means. Because your self-worth has nothing to do with the level of your productivity. And to be consistent with productivity all year round at the cost of other demands of life, it's not realistic. That's not the real standard that you're looking at. Okay, next one. And this can be a point of confusion for many, at least it was for me. And the advice is to charge your market rates. Okay, so there are many reasons why this advice can be detrimental. Well, firstly, it has a high tendency to associate your self-worth with monetary terms. So much so that every rejection, every no, every turn down can affect you personally. When a client asks your rates, and suppose you tell them that you charge $50 an hour, and suppose they say no to that, then you might end up thinking that, oh, I'm not worth $50 an hour, instead of looking at it from a purely professional point of view. And it happens all the more when you are running a business and are self-employed. But what you need to know is that both of these things are separate. Your worth should not be tied to the services or the product that you're offering. If someone says no to your product or service, then you need to fix your pricing. It has nothing to do with you personally. But here, your pricing needs to be based on some foundation, market demand, and client patterns. So while you're charging your worth, it should be based on market analysis. So instead, what you can do is maybe start off by charging a bit lower than what you think you should, and then running it across your clients and understanding what the client wants. I charge a bit lower when I do my consultancy to get those first few testimonials, which will help me build a reputation in the market, which will also help me understand what the market wants, what the market demands, what are the going rates in the market, what people are willing to pay. And then what you can do is slowly increase the prices as you go and see how much are your clients willing to pay further. So charging lower may not always be bad, especially if you're just starting new or you're entering a new segment. Because to be honest, there's no magic pricing formula or number that anyone can give you. A lot of beginners get stuck in the loop of what to charge, but instead of waiting for an answer to the question, you need to get out there, get your first client, and then maybe increase 20% to validate and to find that sweet spot. This is what even big companies such as Nike or Apple do. Pricing research, tons of pricing testing to understand what price point are customers happy with. They don't just go in the lab, make up a fake number, and then say, okay, if you want this thing, then you have to pay for it this much. So instead of charge your worth, start where you're comfortable, prove your worth, and then slowly increase the value. That's how you will actually grow. Okay, next one. Oh, you just need to build a good product and the rest will follow. Oh, I didn't know it was that easy. Wonder why all these big companies still spend so much money in trying to connect with their audience. They must be dumb. Okay, I did not mean to be that harsh there, but this is how much of a BS advice this is. Yes, a good product is vital for your business because your customers are going to use and review that. But building a great product for business is only 20% of the work, as devastating as it may sound. The major 80% of the work goes in getting people to know that you exist, getting people to be more curious about you, going down your sales funnel and buying your that product. As obvious as it may sound, but as a beginner, and even for people who get really overconfident on their skills because maybe they had previous good experiences, they end up having no or very few clients because they kind of tend to rely only on the greatness of their product. And after their launch, most of them are like, oh, when are the clients going to come? Oh, when am I going to make my first sale? Well, breaking news, they are not going to come to you. You have to go and get them. It's your job to drive traffic when you have a business. It's your job to get people to notice you, to show up, to engage with you, and to build trust with you. I have seen Airbnbs with amazing interiors that sat empty simply because no one was marketing them properly. A real successful business owner is obsessed with traffic generation. So while yes, you do need to have a good product for your business, all of that will die in silence if you don't have any traffic. A traffic system is something you have to work on weekly to check what's working, where people are looking out for you the most, how to nurture it, and what is driving consistent traffic. It's not something you do once or twice, it needs to be something that is systemized in your business. And then you make it repeatable to ensure it stays if you're looking for more clients or for more revenue. It's a core function of any business. You need to deliberately build paths that lead people to your door, and you need to keep optimizing these paths till the time you're running a business. I did not do this for a long time. I was mostly reliant on my service, my consulting, my word of mouth. And now that I look back at it and think about it retrospectively, I lost a lot of opportunities out there. So, yes, building a great product is definitely important. You need to build something really great. But half or most of your job is getting eyes on that product, getting that trust with the people to buy a product, to convince them to actually put trust in you. And the next one, and this I personally faced issues with, and this is more of a recent trend that has come up, that having a personal brand is the most important thing ever. Okay, yes, I will say that having a personal brand in this age is definitely important. It helps with trust, opportunity, and credibility. You talk to people, you share your opinions, you share your ideas, you share what you're building. People see you, people understand what you're doing, and they have a higher tendency to connect with you if you show your face. But the issue comes when just building a personal brand or becoming a creator or being an influencer becomes a fixation. The thing is, when you hyper focus on building a personal brand only, you start to think more about yourself rather than your audience or your audience's problems. It creates kind of like a me only universe. Your customers care about solutions to their problems, and it's your job to figure out how to help them find solutions. And also, a lot of people have this misunderstanding that having lots of followers online, having lots of following means a lot of money. Most of the time, these creators who might have millions of following, they are not really making that much money if they are not running something parallelly, like running a business or so. The majority of the creators or influencers online are not making any money because they haven't figured out how to truly understand what the audience needs, what the audience wants, and how to create solutions to their problems. So, while having a personal brand definitely helps, I would still stand by that fact. But don't let just building a personal brand become an excuse to put in work to understand your audience. This has been a personal struggle for me too. But at the same time, I would also say that using your own voice can become a big leverage if you want to pivot into different businesses. Because once you have the trust of your clients and audience on one thing where you have provided good service and they connect with you, they are more likely to follow you if you are providing more good things to them. But the most important thing here is to have a serving mindset. It is one of the most underrated, amazing things in business. I feel that people who are empathetic, who can understand other people, who can focus on giving, who can focus on building trust with people, they win the long game of business. Because at the end of the day, you have a community, you have clients, you have people on the other end of the whole equation. You sell your product, you provide your service to people. They are normal human beings. So you need to have that personal touch. And people who understand this, they are able to perform really well, provided they are not just run by emotions only. So, yeah, most business advice isn't absolutely wrong. I would say it's just incomplete. The real trick is knowing when what part applies to you, because everyone's journey is different. So, next time you hear some coach or someone preaching a mantra to be successful in business, even if it comes from seasoned players, don't take it as a gospel. Test it, filter it through your life. Only then you will be able to figure out. Otherwise, you may just stay stuck or worse, even give up. So if you found this whole conversation to be insightful, please give this a like. And next, you might also like my video on how I would invest 1 lakh rupees and start more businesses. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.